Good morning, everybody. I'm here with the amazing psychic Liz Cross and also our friend Mei Wan Ho, which I have on the screen here. How are y'all doing today?
Mei Wen Ho is so happy to be here. You've given her a job from Spirit.
Yeah, really. Well, yeah, I want her to continue on her work, her wonderful work that she did when she was here on the Earth plane. All right, so we're obviously going to do a health related video this morning. And today we're going to talk about seed oils and vegetable oils, and how they may be just as bad or even worse than processed sugar.
Oh,
So I've known about vegetable oils and seed oils, refined vegetable oils. Like when I say that, I mean like uh, canola oil and margarine and what else is the other ones like the sunflower oils and they're all like industrial oils that are made by an awful process with chemicals and all this stuff. And I've known that they've been not good for a long time. However, in the past year now, Dr. Mercola has done a great job of actually extending that work and doing some amazing research to see what the effects of them are, much more than I realized. And I actually went back and read his article and watched some of his videos on that. And I was just like, I knew they were bad, but according to the research that he's looking at, they're really bad. So
really?
we're gonna take a look at that, and we're gonna have Mei Wen Ho to kind of guide us through some of this information to see how bad they really are. So I'm going to have to give a little bit of background, and again, this is based on the research that Dr. Mercola has done. So I apologize if I don't get this 100% right, but I'll do my best here, summarizing some of the stuff. So what we're talking about are they're called, people call them vegetable oils, but they're really seed oils. So they're made from seeds, and they go through this industrial process where they really used to be used for lubricating machines, honestly. And
Really?
yeah, the process they go through to refine them and to put them on store shelves so you can use them as cooking oil. They use a lot of chemicals to do that. And they're just not things that would normally be in our diet. So let's go through some of the facts here. I have some notes up here. So basically, cancer, obesity, diabetes, and heart disease are pretty much some of the most prevalent things, especially in the West, but worldwide now are pretty much the killers of most people. Those are like the big ones, right? Especially in the United States. And in the 1800s, we ate about 99% of our fat from animals, right? So we were eating lard, we were eating like tallow, we were eating the fat that's naturally attached to animal foods, butter, like real butter, right? And if you're from the East, then you ate a lot of ghee, which is clarified butter, or even coconut oil, which we'll see is actually a good fat. And before we go on, I'd like to encourage everybody, if you're really interested in learning all this stuff, like I did, you can go to Mercola's website. It's articles.mercola.com. He has a video, if you don't like reading there, an extensive video on all of this. But I'll just try and summarize just so everybody's on the same page with us while we ask before we ask some questions. So back then, 99% we were eating animal fats mostly. And today, 90% of our fat intake comes from these refined seed oils that come from industrial processes. So they exist in all of the processed food. Everything that you eat that comes out of a box, that comes out of a bottle, all the fat in it, 90% of that is all coming from these industrial processes. So normally, if you're just eating like a natural diet that wasn't processed, just normal food, real food, right? You're cooking from scratch, you'd probably consume about 2% of your diet from these seed oils. And, you know, virtually eating any food, any natural food will give you enough. You'll never ever be deficient in these they're called linoleic acids. That's what the actual term for them are in nature, how we would naturally get them. They're called linolenic acids. And you would just get it from just eating anything. Like you could literally eat like a small amount of watermelon and you'd have your linoleic acid for the day. Like it's really not hard to get. And so all the processed foods that we have are just, we're getting at least 6 times the amount, if not more, at the minimum in the standard American diet, eating processed foods. And it's everywhere. When you go to a restaurant, they're cooking with these seed oils. They're cooking with, they're not cooking with high quality oils. It's just they can't afford it. It's just too expensive. So they're using these, especially where I live here, everybody's cooking with these refined vegetable oils and everything.
Really?
Oh yeah. So every restaurant you go to, they're cooking, even if they're cooking with vegetable, say they're cooking with like olive oil. That's what they advertise. Most of the olive oil, and we can ask this question, is adulterated, meaning that they're watering it down. The olive oil that you buy in a grocery store, the olive oil that they're buying for restaurants, because they can't afford the real olive oil. It's just too expensive for them. To make, to keep a business up, with all the overhead and everything, businesses. Anyhow, um, so these seed oils, we didn't really use them at all after after the Civil War, like around that time, like the 1800s. Like I said before, we were getting all of our fat from pretty much animal fats before then. And you can actually, there's studies that Mercola shows that there's an actual like it is just a correlation, right? It's not like 100% proven, but there's a really good correlation between when we started putting these seed oils into our foods, when we started eating processed foods in like the 1900s, and all of a sudden heart attacks started to appear. Like we didn't have any reported heart attacks before 1900 in the United States. It was like a super rare thing. Like the first documented heart attack was just like 1912, according to his article. And then obesity and diabetes, all that stuff that just did not exist. And right around the time that we started having, these refined vegetable oils in our diet, now sugar also came in as well. But what he shows is that the amount of sugar that we have, let me just see here. So the sugar that we added in the last 100 years or so is nowhere near the amount of increase of calories from these refined seed oils. So, for instance, from 1935 to 2016, our calories from sugar rose 22% to only 24%. Like it really hasn't gone up that much.
Hmm.
But these vegetable oils, we went from 7% of our diet back in 1935 to today, it's now 29% of the fats that we eat. So that's a way bigger increase. Like it's almost marginal. We've only increased sugar 1% in this time. But what we have increased is these artificial fats. And so when we're looking at these, and we can ask these questions, sorry, once I get to this preamble, sorry, everybody, but once when you look at the processed foods, yeah, they're full of sugar and it's not good for you, but they're also at the same time full of all these horrible fats. And so for those that don't know, in the body, fats make up the myelination on your nerves. That's one thing that they do. Like we obviously eat fat and it's for fuel, right? But only certain types of fat are used for fuel to fuel our body. The other type, this linoleic acid, the ones that we're talking about here, these seed oils, the body takes them and uses them as building blocks for our body. So for instance, our nervous system is myelinated and it's made up of fats. And also the actual membranes in our cells are made up of fats. So when you're eating these crappy fats, your body's like, well, what do we do with it? We got to use it for the building blocks. And we put it into the spaces where it needs to go. Unfortunately, if they're not good, then it's like building your house with like, sand instead of cement. It's just going to melt eventually when it comes across any sort of stress. So we want to ask some questions of Maywin. Oh, now that we've had that preamble, I'm sure she's familiar with this linoleic acid, which is the fat that we've been talking about that comes from these seed oils. In her opinion, are they equally as bad as processed sugar or are they worse?
as bad as processed. No, they're much worse.
Right. And it looks like if you know, all the rage now is like sugar is really bad, and it is like the processed sugar is not good. But unfortunately, everybody's focusing on that part, and they don't realize that whenever you're eating the processed sugar, pretty much 99% of the time it's attached to a processed food that has all these bad oils in it, right? So it's like we're focusing in on the sugar, but really the real killer in all these things that I mentioned, like heart disease, obesity, diabetes, those big cancer, even the fats are playing a part in this. Another thing that he pointed out was macular degeneration. So what that is, if you don't know, is the eyesight. So eyesight going away later on in life, like it seems you're not born with it, but this is a disease that people are getting later on in life where they're losing their eyesight. And it's actually increased. I couldn't believe this statistic, 500,000% in over the last 100 years or something like that. Like it was absolutely like non-existent again back then. And now the cases have increased 500,000%. So people are losing their eyesight. And again, it correlates up with that change in our diet where we switch from animal fats mostly to now predominantly these refined vegetable seed oils. So I'm actually interested to ask Mei Wen Ho about that. In terms of macular degeneration, is that being caused by these fats in a lot of cases, these damaged fats, linoleic acid?
Molecular degeneration. Is that being caused by these fats? It's a big contributor.
Right. I didn't think it would be 100% because obviously we don't live in a vacuum. Like there's all kinds of stuff that's going on in our environment. But yeah, it was very interesting. He was drawing the parallels between that. And I'd never thought of that before. The other thing that he was showing a correlation was for dementia, actually. Can we ask Mei Wen Ho, is there a link between dementia and these damaged fats that we're eating?
Is there a link between dementia and these damaged fats that we're eating? There is.
Right. So if you think about just, and I want to drive this point home, these fats are in everything. So let's go through it. It's like if you're going to a grocery store and you're buying like cereal or you're buying, I'm trying to think of like other types of processed foods that people would buy. Pretty much anything that comes out of a box that's not the real food itself, right? That's what I'm turning by processed food. All of the oils that they make everything with, bread, all of the confections and like pretty much everything that's not like made from scratch yourself, and you buy it in a grocery store, you go to a fast food place, you go to a regular restaurant, they all contain these seed oils just because it's so cheap to use. They've really made this industry where it's almost like subsidized, like our entire food industry is subsidized to use these oils. In fact, actually, I know this not from Marcola's work, but the US government, they actually subsidize corn to be grown in the United States. It's actually so it makes the food really cheap, but it's just horrible for our health. So I'm not suggesting that there's like it almost looks like from the outside there's a campaign to like poison us, right? You could almost say, but it's just looking at the economics of it, it's just so much cheaper for everyone, like restaurants and companies to use these really cheap products. Could we ask, I don't know if Mei Wen Ho would know this, but like, the quote unquote conspiracy theory is that there's, someone out there trying to slowly poison us with all this stuff in our diet. Is that the case, or is it more of a case of economics where it's just really cheap?
Is it the case that they're trying to poison us? No, it's economics. I mean, the companies that are making the food, they want to maximize their profit.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's it. When you look at the numbers, like it does make sense to me that it is an economic thing, unfortunately, right? That we're choosing profit over the health of people. Okay. So we're gonna make a part two of this video here. We're gonna cut this one and we're gonna move over for our members. Again, if you want to learn about all this stuff, I suggest going to Mercolo's website, watching his video, but we're going to ask a few more questions here and figure out some maybe solutions for people. I mean, Mercola has some great solutions as well, but we want to ask some questions and clarify some things and get some further information. We're going to look at some other oils as well, I think are really healthy, that maybe Mercola didn't mention in his article, and we're going to find out about those. So if you guys want to watch all of the videos that we do, you need to become a member on our Patreon. You get access to our Discord. You get access to myself. All of my health related videos are in one spot, so you can watch in a playlist. And obviously not all of them are public as well, so you're missing out on a lot of those. And you get all of the videos from the rest of our presenters, Mr. Reality, Mr. Shakespeare. We cover spirituality, health, finances, cryptocurrency. So we're really, and you can't forget the CTT as well for consciousness transformation. So you really need to become a member with us and get all of the benefits. So how do they do that, Liz?
Go to patreon.com/remote viewing and beyond. And a lot of the probe requests and a lot of the questions come from the Patreon members. So we appreciate them so much. All right, we'll see you guys on the flip side.
Thank you.
And for some reason, I cannot find the button. There it is.